Welcome back to Environmental News, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm Stacy Savage, aka the Texas Trash Talker, founder and CEO of Zero Waste Strategies. We're an environmental consulting firm based here in Austin. We work with business clients to help them reduce waste, save money, empower their employees, and drive a green marketing edge. This week's episode looks at a promising federal recycling hearing, a controversial city waste contract that critics say does not solve underlying problems, and a new Feeding America report showing that Texas is leading the nation in food insecurity. These stories are connected by one big question. Are we actually building better systems or just managing the same old problems but in new ways? The good story for this week is the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee hearing on Recycled Materials Attribution Act and the Packaging and Claims Knowledge Act. On July 22nd, the Subcommittee on Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade held a hearing on both bills, which are intended to strengthen consumer protections and improve the accuracy of environmental and recycled content claims. The Recycled Materials Attribution Act would establish a national framework for recycled content marketing claims and recognize certified mass balance accounting as an acceptable method for substantiating those claims, while the PAC Act focuses on packaging and environmental claims accuracy. One of the biggest problems in recycling is confusion. Consumers, brands, and even local governments are often asked to trust claims that are vague, inconsistent, or impossible to verify. A stronger federal framework could make recycled content claims more credible, reduce greenwashing, and create a more stable market for recycled materials and recycled content products. If manufacturers can make clearer, better supported claims, then buyers have a more reliable basis for choosing products, and recycled materials have a better chance of competing in the marketplace. That can help strengthen demand for recovered commodities, which is a critical part of the recycling economy. Supporters of the bills say that the hearing reflects bipartisan progress on recycling reform and packaging transparency. Even if these bills are not perfect, the fact that Congress is actively discussing recycled content attribution and packaging claims is meaningful in a policy landscape where recycling often gets talked about but not always acted on. So who benefits here? Think about the recyclers, the manufacturers that are trying to make honest claims. Think about the consumers who want clear labeling and policymakers who need a framework that actually means something. Those who could be left out are critics who maybe worry about weaker state standards being preempted or about allowing accounting methods that maybe they don't trust. So the details of the final bill will matter a great deal. But as a sign of movement, this is a real step toward recycling reform. And now for the bad story this week. It's the backlash to the City of Philadelphia's new waste contract with ReWorld, Waste Management, and Republic Services. On July 14th of this year, Philadelphia announced plans to award solid waste disposal contracts to these three companies. Critics argue that the deal does not address the city's systemic waste issues or improve environmental outcomes, especially because it continues reliance on disposal-heavy infrastructure rather than moving toward true waste reduction. As we all know, contracts help shape the future of a city's waste system. If a city locks itself into long-term disposal agreements, it can become much harder to invest in reduction, reuse, repair, composting, or other upstream strategies later on. Philadelphia's debate is not really about which company hauls the trash. It's more about whether the city is designing a system that keeps burning and burying waste, or one that begins to shrink the amount of waste produced in the first place. Now, ReWorld is particularly controversial because its Delaware Valley Resource Recovery Facility in Chester has long been a flashpoint in environmental justice discussions. Opponents argue that retaining the facility in the city's disposal network helps keep Philadelphia tied to a polluting model that is not delivered on environmental outcomes residents deserve. Meanwhile, Waste Management plans to provide disposal capacity at its Fairless landfill and Republic at its Conestoga landfill, which means the new contract still relies heavily on end-of-pipe solutions. Supporters say that the city needs dependable disposal capacity and that these contracts ensure service stability. Now, that may be true, but stability is not the same as progress. A contract can still be efficient and still fail to move the city towards zero waste if it does not reduce generation, improve recycling quality, expand composting, or build reuse infrastructure. The contracted companies and a city system benefit because they can continue operating without making major structural changes right away. But it might be the residents who are left out. Those who want lower emissions, communities near disposal sites to be protected, and local advocates pushing for deeper zero waste reforms. This is the classic waste system trap. We keep paying for disposal, and then we act surprised that disposal keeps happening and winning. And now for our ugly story. The new Feeding America report showing that Texas leads the nation in food insecurity. According to the 2026 Map the Meal Gap data, 19.4% of Texans, or more than 6 million people, are food insecure. That's up from 17.6% in the prior report. This study also shows that about 1 in 4 Texas children are food insecure, and roughly 1 in 7 seniors are affected as well. That is a staggering number, and it should make all of us stop and think about what kind of food system we've built. Texas is not only the state with the largest food insecure population in the country, it also is a state with enormous food production, major metropolitan areas, and significant logistical infrastructure. The issue is not whether food exists in Texas. The issue is whether people can access it reliably and affordably. This is the ugly truth behind food waste conversations. We cannot talk about composting, donation, or waste diversion without also talking about hunger. A system that throws away edible food while millions of people struggle to eat is not circular. It is not resilient, and it's not centered in justice. Food recovery matters, but it cannot substitute for wages, SNAP access, transportation, affordability, and the policy supports that make food security possible. This report also points to widening disparities, including higher food insecurity among Black Texans and continued pressure on seniors and children. That means this is not just a general economic problem, it's also an equity problem. When the burden of food insecurity falls hardest on the same communities that are already under-resourced, the waste and hunger crisis reinforce each other. Children, seniors, working families, and the communities that depend most on food banks and emergency support are going to be affected most. And this is why zero waste has to be about more than materials. It has to be about people.